Welcome back to Who Died Today USA channel. In the past few days, we have received somber news about the passing of extraordinary talents. Today's episode is dedicated to honoring their memory. Additionally, we will recap the stars we have recently lost. Before we begin, we kindly ask for your support. If this video or the legacies of these remarkable individuals have touched your life, please consider giving this video a thumbs up as a sign of respect and remembrance. Thank you.
Junior Edwards was a legendary American outdoorsman and television personality whose fearless spirit and deep connection to Louisiana's swamplands made him a household name. He rose to fame through the History Channel's hit reality series Swamp People, where he showcased his unmatched skill as one of the greatest alligator hunters in the country. Junior appeared on the show from 2010 to 2015 alongside his son, Willie Edwards, capturing audiences with thrilling gator hunts and a no-nonsense charm. He made a surprise return in 2021 for Season 12, proving his enduring passion for life on the bayou. Off-screen, Junior was a devoted family man, remembered lovingly by his grandson, Lil Willie Edwards, who recently shared the heartbreaking news of his passing. Though his exact age and cause of death were not publicly disclosed, it was known that he had been battling serious health issues in the weeks leading up to his death. Junior's legacy is deeply woven into the culture of the American South. A man of grit, tradition, and unmatched skill in the wild. His passing has left a void in the hearts of fans and fellow hunters alike. But his spirit will live on in every tale told from the swamps he once ruled. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was a television legend whose sudden and tragic passing has left fans around the world in mourning. Best known for his iconic role as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show, Warner captured the hearts of millions with his charm, wit, and emotional depth, becoming a defining face of 1980s television. His Emmy-nominated portrayal helped usher in a new era of representation and storytelling, showing that family dynamics and personal growth transcend race and background. Throughout his decades-long career, Warner showcased remarkable versatility, with standout roles in Malcolm and Eddie, The Resident, Suits, and Major Crimes. He also found success as a director, Grammy-winning spoken word artist, and co-host of the podcast Not All Hood, where he addressed issues of Black masculinity and mental health. Tragically, Warner died at the age of 54 while on a family vacation in Costa Rica. According to Costa Rica's Judicial Investigation Agency, OIJ, his autopsy revealed he died from accidental asphyxiation by submersion after being swept away by a current while body surfing. Despite bystanders' efforts and treatment by the Red Cross, he was pronounced dead at the scene. He is survived by his wife and daughter and leaves behind a legacy of artistic brilliance, cultural impact, and quiet strength. Kenneth Washington was a legendary figure in American television who passed away tragically at the age of 88. Best remembered for his groundbreaking role as Sergeant Richard Baker in the final season of the iconic sitcom Hogan's Heroes, Washington made history as one of the first black actors to secure a regular role on a primetime network series, shattering barriers at a time when representation was rare. Born in Los Angeles in 1936, Washington rose to prominence through memorable appearances in some of the most beloved shows of the 1960s and 70s, including Star Trek, I Dream of Jeannie, Marcus Welby, MD, and The Rockford Files. His performance in the 1973 sci-fi classic Westworld and his historic guest appearance on Petticoat Junction further cemented his place in entertainment history. After retiring from acting in the late 1980s, Washington earned a degree and went on to become a respected professor, teaching Black film history and public speaking. Though the cause of his death was not publicly revealed, he died surrounded by loved ones, leaving behind a legacy of cultural impact, trailblazing talent, and educational devotion. He is survived by his wife, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. George Kooymans was a legendary figure in Dutch rock music who passed away tragically at the age of 77. As the lead guitarist and co-founder of the iconic band Golden Earring, he helped revolutionize the European rock scene and brought international acclaim to the Netherlands. With unforgettable hits like Radar Love and Twilight Zone, the latter reaching the US top 10, Kooymans established himself as a masterful songwriter and performer, whose influence extended far beyond his home country. Born in The Hague in 1948, Kooymans co-founded Golden Earring in 1961, and for 6 decades remained at the heart of its sound and success. He also formed the supergroup Vreemde Kostgangers and played a pivotal role in launching singer Anouk's career with her breakout 1997 hit Together Alone. Sadly, Kooymans succumbed to complications from ALS, a progressive and incurable muscle-wasting disease he had battled since 2020. His illness led to Golden Earring's disbandment, with his bandmates declaring he was irreplaceable. George Kooymans is remembered not only as a pioneer in music, but as a beloved husband, father, and friend. His legacy lives on in the anthems he created and the generations he continues to inspire. Chuck Mangione was a legendary figure in American jazz who passed away tragically in his sleep at the age of 84. Renowned for his soulful flugelhorn melodies and genre-defining sound, Mangione rose to international fame with his 1977 hit Feels So Good, a smooth jazz classic that soared to number 1, 2 on the Billboard charts, and became one of the most iconic instrumental pieces of its time. Born and raised in Rochester, New York, Mangione was immersed in jazz from childhood, often sharing meals with visiting greats like Art Blakey and Carmen McRae. He studied at the Eastman School of Music, later returning to expand its jazz program. With over 30 albums to his name and 14 Grammy nominations, including 2 wins for Bollea and Children of Sanchez, his prolific output left an indelible mark on modern music. Beyond the stage, Mangione became a cultural icon through his recurring role as himself on the animated sitcom King of the Hill, beloved by new generations. His music also resonated on Olympic stages and in film. Though he died peacefully, his passing leaves a profound void in the jazz world. Chuck Mangione's legacy lives on in every uplifting note he gave to the world. Hulk Hogan was a legendary American professional wrestler who passed away recently at the age of 71. Born Terry Bollea in Augusta, Georgia, he rose to global fame in the 1980s as the face of world wrestling entertainment, captivating millions with his larger-than-life persona, trademark mustache, and unforgettable catchphrase. "What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?" Known for his charisma, power, and patriotic image, Hogan became the most recognizable figure in wrestling history and helped bring the sport into mainstream culture. Over his career, Hogan headlined countless events, starred in films and television, and amassed a fortune through endorsements, merchandise, and appearances. His fame extended beyond the ring as he became an icon of Americana for generations of fans. Behind the character, however, Terry Bollea faced personal controversies, including a scandal involving racist remarks that strained his legacy. Despite being reinstated to WWE's Hall of Fame, public opinion remained divided. Hogan died after years of physical decline, having endured over 24 surgeries and ongoing health battles tied to his wrestling career. His passing marks the end of an era. While the man may have been flawed, Hulk Hogan remains one of the most iconic heroes and villains ever to grace the ring. Ozzy Osbourne was a legendary icon of heavy metal who passed away tragically at the age of 76. Born on December 3, 1948, in Birmingham, England, Osbourne rose to fame as the frontman of Black Sabbath, a band that helped shape the very foundations of the heavy metal genre with classics like Paranoid, Iron Man, and War Pigs. His haunting vocals and rebellious spirit made him a defining voice of rock music for over 5 decades. Following his time with Black Sabbath, Osbourne launched a wildly successful solo career, producing hits like Crazy Train and No More Tears. He earned 5 Grammy Awards and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, once with Black Sabbath and once as a solo artist. In addition to his music, Osbourne became a cultural phenomenon through the hit reality series The Osbournes, offering an unfiltered look into his family life that endeared him to an entirely new audience. After battling Parkinson's disease for many years, Osbourne's health declined, yet he remained determined to keep performing. His final public appearance was a farewell concert in his hometown, seated but still singing. Ozzy Osbourne leaves behind a legacy of raw power, vulnerability, and groundbreaking artistry that forever changed rock music. Dame Cleo Laine was a legendary British jazz vocalist and actress who passed away peacefully at the age of 97. Renowned for her extraordinary vocal range and distinctive contralto timbre, Laine earned international acclaim for her ability to blend jazz with classical, pop, and theatrical styles. She was the only female vocalist to ever receive Grammy nominations in the jazz, popular, and classical categories, winning Best Female Jazz Vocalist in 1985. Her long and fruitful collaboration with saxophonist and composer John Dankworth, her husband, led to sold-out tours around the world and groundbreaking recordings that brought British jazz to a global audience. Their contributions extended beyond the stage as they co-founded the Stables Theatre in Buckinghamshire, a celebrated venue for music performance and education. Born Clementina Dinah Campbell on October 27, 1927, in Southall, West London, Laine began her career singing in local pubs before breaking through with the Dankworth Band in the 1950s. Over the decades, she graced prestigious stages including Carnegie Hall and Broadway, and starred in productions such as Showboat, The Mystery of Edwin Drood, and A Midsummer Night's Dream. Cleo Laine passed away on July 24, 2025. Her artistic brilliance, genre-defying legacy, and indelible voice will continue to inspire generations to come. Ziad Rahbani was a legendary Lebanese composer, playwright, and cultural icon who passed away tragically at the age of 69 following a heart attack. Widely regarded as one of the Arab world's most original artistic voices, Rahbani was more than just a musician. He was a fearless commentator on politics, society, and identity, leaving behind a legacy that transcended genres and generations. The son of music legend Fairuz and composer Ozzy Rahbani, Ziad was immersed in art from a young age. At just 17, he composed Sa'aluni El Nas for his mother, beginning a prolific career marked by both musical brilliance and bold theatrical works like Sariyeh, A Long American Film, and Bema Inno. His distinctive style seamlessly blended classical, jazz, and Oriental music, giving voice to Lebanon's struggles and spirit through melody and satire. Despite his declining health in recent years, Rahbani continued to create until the end, refusing treatment in his final days. His death on July 26, 2025, left Lebanon and the Arab cultural world in mourning. Ziad Rahbani was more than a composer. He was, in the words of Lebanon's president, a complete intellectual and cultural phenomenon. His influence will continue to resonate for generations to come. Bryan Braman, former NFL linebacker and Super Bowl 52 champion with the Philadelphia Eagles, has died at 38 following a battle with a rare aggressive cancer. His agent, Sean Stellato, confirmed Braman passed surrounded by family and close friends. Known for his tenacity on the field and kindness off it, Braman left a lasting impact during his 7-year NFL career. Undrafted out of West Texas A&M, Braman beat the odds by signing with the Houston Texans in 2011. He played 3 seasons with the Texans before joining the Eagles, where he spent 4 more seasons, primarily as a standout on special teams. His final NFL appearance came in 2018 when he helped the Eagles win their first Super Bowl. Over 97 games, he totaled 56 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 2 fumble recoveries. As his illness progressed, Braman underwent surgeries, chemotherapy, and CAR T-cell therapy. A GoFundMe raised over $91,000 with donations from former teammates like J.J. Watt, Brent Selleck, and Emmanuel Acho. Stellato called him a dream chaser and a dream catcher, saying his heart matched his imposing presence. Braman's journey was one of grit, resilience, and inspiration. From undrafted hopeful to Super Bowl champion, he is remembered as both a warrior on the field and a compassionate soul off it. Breaking news. In the twilight of a glittering life, beneath the legacy of red carpets and golden statues, stood a man who had weathered storms far darker than any scene he ever performed. Before the world saw him as a titan of Hollywood, Michael Douglas was simply a son searching for a father's warmth, a husband fearing death's grip, and a father drowning in guilt. His smile was practiced, his voice unforgettable, but few ever glimpsed the weight behind his eyes. This is not just a story of success. This is a story of survival, redemption, and the invisible scars left by fame's unforgiving light. Long before Michael Douglas became a name etched in the history of American cinema, he was just a boy standing in the shadow of a legend. Born into privilege, yes, but never into peace. His father, the formidable Kirk Douglas, was a towering figure not only in Hollywood, but in their home. Charismatic to the world, yet emotionally distant to the son who watched him more often on screen than across the dinner table. Michael's earliest memories were stitched with contrast, the grandeur of his last name and the quiet ache of invisibility. His parents' divorce when he was only 7 years old split his world in two. From that point on, he belonged to no single place, shuffled between homes, never fully settled, always adjusting. He once described his childhood not with bitterness, but with a muted sorrow, as if recounting a dream where he was present, but not seen. Diana Dill, his mother, was the gentler compass, offering warmth in the cold corridors left behind by an absent father, chasing cinematic immortality. But no mother, no matter how devoted, could fill the hollow left by emotional absence. Michael wore the Douglas name like an ill-fitting suit, proud but heavy. There was admiration, of course, but also pressure, comparison, and the silent burden of expectation. Other children chased toys. Michael chased his father's approval. Even in moments of laughter, there was an undercurrent of strain. The kind of strain that teaches a child early how to smile without feeling, how to perform long before stepping onto any stage. First was Fatal Attraction, where he portrayed a man ensnared in a dangerous affair, a role that demanded emotional vulnerability and psychological tension. The film was a cultural flashpoint, reigniting conversations about relationships, betrayal, and consequence. That same year, he transformed into Gordon Gekko in Oliver Stone's Wall Street, a ruthless corporate raider whose cold brilliance and infamous line, "Greed is good," became a defining phrase of the decade. The performance earned Michael an Academy Award for Best Actor and etched Gecko into cinematic history. It was more than a performance. It was a moment of arrival. Throughout the 1990s, Michael continued to challenge himself with complex roles that tested both his range and courage. In Basic Instinct, 1992, he played a detective entangled in a web of desire and suspicion. In Falling Down, 1993, he portrayed a man pushed to the edge by a society he could no longer recognize. And in The American President, 1995, he offered a softer contrast, a romantic and principled leader navigating love and politics. Off-screen, Michael's reputation as a producer grew stronger. He was increasingly respected not just for artistic choices, but for his sharp eye for stories with both weight and commercial appeal. He proved himself as a rare force, a man who could lead on screen and orchestrate success behind the scenes. As the new millennium unfolded, Michael adapted again. In Wonder Boys and Traffic, both released in 2000, he shifted into characters layered with weariness and contradiction. These weren't roles for actors chasing youth. They were for men who had lived, stumbled, and come to terms with their bruises. Critics praised the honesty in his performances, noting a kind of emotional transparency that had grown stronger with age. Then came a surprise transformation. In 2013, he portrayed entertainer Liberace in HBO's Behind the Candelabra, a role that required not only physical reinvention, but a fearless dive into theatricality, vulnerability, and longing. His performance was met with acclaim, earning him a Primetime Emmy Award and a wave of renewed respect. Even in the blockbuster era, Michael stayed relevant. As Dr. Hank Pym in Marvel's Ant-Man franchise, he introduced himself to a new generation, while anchoring the series with gravitas and wit. He reprised the role in multiple sequels, adding another layer to a career defined by versatility and reinvention. From intense thrillers to political dramas, from romantic leads to deeply flawed anti-heroes, Michael Douglas shaped a legacy that could no longer be compared to anyone else. He had become his own monument, not through rebellion, but through resilience, craft, and a quiet defiance that whispered, "I am more than a name. I am the story I've lived." Michael Douglas didn't arrive in Hollywood with thunder or fanfare. He stepped in cautiously, as if measuring each move beneath the overwhelming weight of a name too iconic to escape. While the name Douglas opened certain doors, it also cast long, cold shadows he never asked for. Most actors chase legacy. Michael, in his early years, quietly wrestled with it, not in open rebellion, but with the heavy desire to be more than a reflection of his father's glory. After graduating from the University of California, Santa Barbara in 1968 with a degree in drama, Michael made the pivotal decision to leave the West Coast and settle in New York City. It was a move not just of geography, but of identity. Determined to be taken seriously, he chose rigorous training over family shortcuts, enrolling at the American Place Theater under the respected acting coach Win Handman. While other aspiring actors leaned on charm or connections, Michael threw himself into study, patient, deliberate, and relentlessly focused on building his own craft, brick by brick. Those early years were marked not by spotlight, but by solitude and persistence. He took on modest television roles, appearing in series like The FBI and Medical Center, where his performances were often short but carried an understated intensity. These roles may not have turned heads, but they served a purpose, grounding him in discipline, teaching him the rhythm of the set, and slowly planting seeds of respect among producers and peers. Even as he worked in his father's orbit, he fought, internally and quietly, to walk a different path. The turning point came in 1972, when Michael landed the role of Inspector Steve Keller in the television series The Streets of San Francisco. Starring alongside veteran actor Karl Malden, Michael brought to the screen a subtle, principled energy that resonated with viewers nationwide. The show was a success, and Michael remained with it for 5 seasons. But more than fame, the experience gave him confidence. For the first time, audiences began to recognize him not as Kirk's son, but as a compelling actor in his own right. It was a fragile but meaningful shift. While still acting in the series, Michael made a bold, career-defining move. One that would distance him from his father's shadow in the most profound way. In 1975, he stepped behind the camera to produce One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a film his father had long tried to bring to life without success. Michael secured the rights, teamed up with Saul Zaentz, and helped bring the project to the screen under the direction of Milos Forman. The result was staggering. The film won 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. At just 31, Michael Douglas held an Oscar not for acting, but for producing. A feat both triumphant and quietly symbolic. He had honored the dream, but claimed it as his own. The 1980s ushered in a period of mainstream stardom. With Romancing the Stone in 1984, Michael showed his capacity for adventure, romance, and humor. A charismatic leading man with edge. Its success led to the 1985 sequel, The Jewel of the Nile, which further cemented his box office draw. But the real transformation came in 1987, when Michael took on 2 roles that would forever define his screen persona. Behind the trophies and critical acclaim, Michael Douglas's life has been marked by private wars, quiet, agonizing battles that shaped him more than any role he ever portrayed. His strength wasn't born on glamorous film sets, but in hospital rooms, in moments of helpless silence, and in the agonizing spaces between fame and family. In 2010, at the age of 65, Michael stunned the world with the revelation that he had been diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. How heartbreaking. A man whose voice had captivated generations now faced the terrifying reality of losing that very gift. For months, he had endured discomfort and difficulty swallowing, symptoms that were tragically misdiagnosed. By the time doctors realized the truth, the disease had progressed. How cruel it was that the very tool which defined his legacy was the one most under threat. His treatment was brutal. Chemotherapy and radiation ravaged his once vigorous body. He lost weight drastically. The strong, confident figure known to millions was reduced to a fragile frame. So sad to see such a commanding presence diminished by illness. But he did not retreat. He continued to appear publicly, not to reassure fans, but to humanize suffering. He looked pale, gaunt, vulnerable, yet he stood firm. And in doing so, he quietly redefined what bravery looked like. In a 2013 interview, he shocked the world again by attributing the cancer to HPV, a sexually transmitted virus rarely discussed openly at the time. His comment sparked widespread controversy, but it also broke silence. He later clarified the diagnosis. It wasn't throat cancer, but tongue cancer, a detail he had deliberately concealed to protect his career. So sad that even in life-threatening illness, an actor had to weigh truth against survival in an image-obsessed industry. For Douglas, it wasn't just about survival. It was about preserving his voice, his face, his identity, the essence of his artistry. By early 2011, he announced that his tumor had been eradicated, but the emotional toll remained. His marriage, already strained by the weight of public life, began to crack. That same year, Michael and Catherine Zeta-Jones entered a brief separation. The tabloids swirled. The pressure intensified. At the same time, Catherine had gone public with her diagnosis of bipolar II disorder. A private battle, now exposed to the world, added another layer of tension. For years, they had been Hollywood's golden couple. Now, they were two vulnerable souls weathering separate storms under one roof. But rather than break, they took time to reflect. They reconciled, bruised, but stronger. Michael would later say, "It wasn't failure, it was a test." Yet the heartache kept coming. In 2004, Michael's half-brother Eric Douglas died from an accidental drug overdose. Eric had struggled for years with addiction and mental illness. How tragic. Despite multiple interventions and rehab attempts, including efforts personally supported by Michael, the darkness proved too powerful. He died at just 46. Though Michael rarely spoke publicly about it, the loss left a mark that never truly healed. Then came perhaps the most harrowing chapter of all. His eldest son, Cameron. Born from his first marriage to Diandra Luker, Cameron had grown up in privilege, but drifted into rebellion, and eventually deep addiction. Heroin, cocaine, arrests, the descent was public and painful. In 2010, Cameron was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison for drug trafficking. How heartbreaking for a father to watch his son unravel, knowing the window for redemption was closing. Michael was candid. He admitted to guilt, to regret, to absence. "I wasn't there when he needed me," he said in interviews. But he never gave up. He visited Cameron in prison, wrote letters, stayed connected, even when Cameron pushed him away. Their bond, frayed but unbroken, endured. And when Cameron was finally released, Michael stood beside him as he published a memoir about his fall and rise, not to erase the past, but to own it. The years that followed continued to chip away at Michael's emotional armor. In 2020, his father, Kirk Douglas, passed away at 103. Their relationship had been famously complicated, full of admiration, resentment, distance, and slow reconciliation. While his father's passing was expected, it still cut deep. Michael described it as the closing of an era, not just for Hollywood, but for his own identity. How cruel! That closure sometimes comes only when it's too late to speak all the words left unsaid. The losses continued. Friends, mentors, co-stars, one by one, they vanished. Carl Malden, his mentor from the streets of San Francisco. Jack Lemmon, other peers of a generation now gone. So sad, as funeral after funeral reminded him that he was becoming the last bridge to a vanishing world. And yet, through it all, he remained. He spoke out about mental health, addiction, cancer, and aging. He didn't hide the scars. He let the world see the wear, the regret, the healing. He no longer acted through it. He lived through it. In his vulnerability, others found comfort. In his openness, others found courage. And in every quiet, broken moment he shared, he reminded millions, you are not alone. For all the awards, acclaim, and historic roles, what endures most about Michael Douglas is not the brilliance of his career, but the depth of his character. His legacy is not carved only in gold statues or box office records. It lives in something quieter, something more human. The way he has chosen to confront life's hardest moments with honesty, humility, and unshakable grace. He is a man who has known both triumph and torment, and never pretended otherwise. In his most vulnerable seasons, he didn't hide behind fame. He didn't craft a narrative of perfection. Instead, he allowed the cracks to show. That perhaps more than any performance, is what has made Michael Douglas unforgettable. He could have chosen to disappear after illness. He could have withdrawn in the face of personal scandal, grief, and family struggle. But he did not. He stayed present. He spoke, not as a celebrity, but as a man who had stumbled, endured, and grown. How rare it is to see a public figure so willing to let the spotlight fall not just on success, but on sorrow. Over time, Michael Douglas became more than an actor. He became a storyteller of life's most difficult truths. Through roles, yes, but also through the way he lived. He spoke openly about his battles. He extended compassion toward others fighting silent wars. He never claimed to be invincible. And in doing so, he gave permission to millions of others to shed that illusion too. In his later roles, from the aging professor in Wonder Boys, to the flawed judge in Traffic, to the fading acting coach in The Kominsky Method, Douglas stopped chasing youth and embraced reflection. He welcomed complexity. He inhabited characters not to impress, but to explore. And always, always, there was a thread of truth connecting the man to the performance. Colleagues speak of him not just with respect, but with affection. Directors praise his intuition, his discipline, his willingness to take risks others avoid. Younger actors often call him generous, patient, a quiet mentor in a loud industry. But it's beyond film where his impact grows even deeper. As an advocate for cancer awareness, mental health, and nuclear disarmament, Michael has used his platform to spark conversation, to reduce stigma, to remind the world that fame does not shield anyone from fragility. He has taken his pain and turned it into purpose, gently, never self-righteously, with the calm of someone who has walked through fire and come out wiser, quieter, stronger. So when we speak of legacy, let us look not only to the screen, but to the man behind it. Let us remember the father who stood beside his son in the face of public shame, the husband who rebuilt love through illness and distance, the son who found peace with a complicated father, the friend who outlived his peers with reverence, not arrogance. Michael Douglas's life has never been perfect. That is why it matters. It is a story not of flawless success, but of hard-won grace. And in that, it becomes all the more worthy of honor. In the tapestry of Hollywood, some names sparkle, but others endure. Michael Douglas is not just a star we watched. He's a man whose life we felt. Through moments of power and pain, through victories and vulnerability, he allowed us to witness a journey both larger than life and achingly human. He has walked through fire as a son, a father, a husband, an actor, and emerged not untouched, but transformed. Not polished, but real. And maybe that's what makes him matter even more with time. Not the fame, not the fortune, but the way he kept going. Quietly, bravely, honestly. If his story has touched you, if you've ever seen a piece of your own struggle in his, if you simply want to say thank you for the years, the memories, the truth, we invite you to leave a word of remembrance below. A thought, a blessing, a favorite role, or a simple thank you. Because some lives aren't just lived, they're shared. And Michael Douglas has shared his deeply, fully, and without apology. Let's honor that, together.